Hello, San Francisco, and welcome once again to the Angelic Troublemakers. I'm your host, Alan Jones, and on today's program, pardon me, I'm talking about my 2020 project. It's California Clemency Boards. And on my website, californiaclemency.org, I have a section called Pardon Me. And I just clicked it, and it is a section of those individuals who I believe are deserving of a pardon. Now, though I say those deserving of a pardon, and this particular story that I'm going to begin with is just one issue. But before I get into this particular issue, I would like to say that when it comes to a pardon and my desire to see a constitutional amendment that takes the power of clemency out of the governor's hand in California and the judges that panel and the parole board that recommends and stuff like that, and give it to the people, sadly but understandably, I'm going to have to say at least 1,000 times in the next year, my California Clemency Boards is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. Let me say it again. My California Clemency Boards is not a get-out-of-jail-free card, and I am saying that I claim that my California Clemency project is a comprehensive approach to prison and justice reform in the state of California and hopefully further. Now, the gentleman in this video, the video is courtesy of Sunkissed Productions. I read the story in 48 Hills, it's a blog or newspaper that really did something to me. And I'm going to read what's in white up here because it's something that I wrote, and it's about people who deserve a pardon. And under the current situation, you have to go through a whole bunch of loops and hoops and appeals and this and that for the average person. But this young man, and I say young, he's probably in his 40s, he's not incarcerated, and he is not on parole, but he was a prisoner in California, did his 21 years. But let me read this, what I wrote here, and get to the point of why I believe this gentleman deserves a pardon, and how my California Clemency Boards can help. Maybe not him specifically, because this is not law, but people in his situation in the future. In the white, it reads, there are thousands of current and former California prisoners who are deserving of a pardon. California Clemency Boards, designed to streamline the process of granting clemency, commutations, or exoneration/expungements, will take time to become law in this state. Until then, California Governor Gavin Newsom should act to use his power to help many deserving individuals like Simon Lamb. Now I'm going to play a 6-minute video of Simon Lew, situation, and after that, discuss it a little bit further. Simon Lew was 16.
So Simon works at my company. He's a software engineer. I met Simon through a friend of mine named Dan, who is a volunteer with a program called The Last Mile, which is a re-entry program at San Quentin State Prison that does a bunch of things, but one of the things that it does is it teaches programming classes.
I had an opportunity to participate in this really highly competitive program and finished at the top of his class, but still had difficulty finding a job. Knowing him and what he was capable of, but seeing the challenges that he was facing because of his conviction, because of this label, because of this registration requirement, the injustice was pretty obvious.
See, the thing is, I met Simon when he was a young person who just entered the prison system.
I have to stop. That gentleman, Eddie Zing, was a student in my Bible study class in San Francisco Juvenile Hall. I'm not taking any credit for him. When I knew him, that was 30 years ago. Let me continue.
He was just like myself because he didn't speak much English and he was facing a long sentence. He didn't know what to expect while he was in prison or what is going to be his future.
I was a teenager who didn't speak any English. Got caught up in committed a robbery.
When they went into the home, one of the other guys committed an offense, sexually assaulted a young woman.
Even though like it was a really big house, one of the teenagers assaulted somebody that I have no knowledge of, I'm just as guilty.
Anyone convicted of a crime like that could be subject to lifetime registration requirement. They have to register as sex offenses.
The prosecutor wanted me to sentence Simon to 46 years in prison. The probation officer wanted 37 years. Given what Simon had chosen to plead guilty to, there was a bottom. In other words, I couldn't go beneath the bottom because of the charges he pled to. And the bottom was something like 21 years. That's the minimum.
You don't see 26-year-old, you have no concept of time. Not having money or the language or just being a kid in general put me in a really bad situation where I don't have the ability to defend myself in a courtroom, so I took a plea bargain.
So I have a whole problem with the whole plea bargain system because what it does basically is coerce defendants into not having a trial and instead taking a plea. In the United States, 98% of criminal cases are resolved with plea bargains. We have a system that says, especially to poor defendants and defendants of color, you know what, we're setting bail, you can't post the bail, but if you take this deal, you could be out. Now if you want to wait and go to trial, that's fine, but that could be some years down the road.
Even though he's discharged parole, it's something that will follow him for the rest of his life. For decisions that he made when he was a kid, and decisions that had nothing to do with the actual sexual assault. And I think that his case really shows the injustice of this registration requirement and the way it seems to paint everyone with the same broad brush and really limits Simon's chances and the chances of a lot of other people to move on with their lives after they complete their prison sentences.
And I know it's rare to have a judge who sentenced someone who was a part of an egregious crime, who harmed a lot of people, to be speaking out in this fashion. Simon did not sexually assault anyone. This rule that he has to register as a sex offender, I think, one, is wrong, just flat out wrong. I'm talking about for Simon. It flies in the face of our belief in redemption.
Every one of us has an obligation to confront the incredible harm and trauma that the system causes in the service of, like, basically perpetuating a bunch of super racist stuff. So I would say tech companies have a huge responsibility towards it. He's already, in the short time that he's been at Pilot, helped other people with records get jobs. He was a part of spinning up like a food recycling program that ensures that there's no food waste coming out of Pilot. Like, let this guy live his life and continue to do good things. Like, anything short of that is just a net negative for humanity, so why do that?
Presented thousands of people who've committed all range of crimes and been in prison for all kinds of long periods of time. And there aren't many that I can hold up and say this is somebody who clearly probably never should have gone to prison, but even if he did, clearly should never have to spend the rest of his life under this sentence that never ends.
If somebody has committed a crime, admitted to it, served in a complete prison sentence, 21 years, more than a decade, has expressed remorse, and during the time in prison, and then since being out, has done everything to show that he is a good person, that he has been rehabilitated, and he can positively contribute to society, my answer is yes. I wouldn't hesitate to grant such a person a pardon to keep that person from being deported in this country.
He grants a pardon, he gets to stay here. No, he has to stay here. He's one of the good guys. He's one of the good guys.
And give chances to other people to get jobs too, not just to go back in jail, and to go help and get his money and go about his business. He actually spend time in the community.
Yeah, support Simon Luke. After 21 years of incarceration, Simon deserves justice from a lifetime on the sex registration, and justice from a life in limbo. At the bottom of my support Simon Lim campaign, my website, it's I didn't put up the campaign. I signed this campaign, and it's basically justice from life. And they have a goal of 6,000 signatures that they're signing. I was one of them, and I urge all my viewers to do the same. This is something that really should be supported. Many people do not understand the injustices that are going on, and all they have to do is fill out a form to support people who are going through these injustices and make more people aware of it. That's how I found out about it, when I read a story, and it didn't cost me anything. I looked at it and saw where I could do something, and if you can just fill out a form and show your support for a person who you may believe, after reading his story, that he deserves to be pardoned by the governor, Gavin Newsom, please do so. I will be doing an awful lot to bring about a better pardoning system in the state of California. As my website says, clemency is the most powerful tool in our criminal justice system. 21st century justice demands a change in who should control this power. Now, when I say 21st century justice demands a change in who should control this power, it is my belief that we should give power to the people to pardon people. Now, some people will think, well, wait a minute, Alan, we can't be just pardoning people who've committed crimes. Well, the same people who send these people to prison are the same people that I trust can make good judgment on releasing. And if you'll pardon me, I gotta sneeze. I think that in the coming year, as I try and get my California clemency ideal to many people, I honestly believe that I will be able to explain how, whether you are in prison or out of prison, but in the case of Simon Liu, still basically a prisoner to the sentence that he unjustly is under. A better clemency process could set him and many others free and help them to do more with little restrictions. Now, I honestly thank God for prisons. There are some people who need to be locked up. I get that. And I claim, there are at least 50,000 prisoners in California prisons who do not belong there. Do they need some sort of guidance? I say this much. But we don't have an apparatus to get these people out and back into the communities safely. Sure, there are some people who get out of prison a week later, they committed another more serious crime than what they were released from. I get all of that. But I'm saying that a new clemency process, not controlled by the parole boards, who in many cases, they have a bias against releasing people. I don't know what it is. Some of them, I'll admit, they've done a pretty good job, but there's an awful lot of people who deserve to be released and unshackled by the conditions of parole. Let me tell you something. The situation with Simon Liu is, though he is working here in the city, he's under threat of deportation. And the only way we can stop this deportation is if he is granted pardon by the governor. Now, the governor has done, I think, a pretty good job his first year in office on helping to turn things around in the California prison system. Some are crying foul because the governor has put a halt on this death penalty. He is trying to close down a prison, San Quentin. I think that San Quentin should be closed down immediately and sell the property. But the fact of the matter is there's so much bureaucracy holding up a situation like that. The only thing that's going to cause this to happen is a lot of people safely released from prison. And let me say one thing. San Quentin Prison has an awful lot of good programs. I have heard that a lot of people brag about those programs. In fact, I believe that Simon Liu graduated from one of these programs. He's a coder. And so, with his experience of being in the system and the system working for him inside, he served his full time. And then, because of some technical issues, that he could be deported after he did his time. Quite frankly, I think it's double jeopardy, because he came to America as a young man, or 16 years old, with his family. And he has very little, if any, family in China where they want to deport him. This is not right. Now, when I created California Clemency Boards, I did so with his situation in mind. Not his specific, but I was disturbed by another situation. Under California's old 3 strikes law, there was a man who was sentenced to 26 years to life on a 3rd strike. What was his 3rd strike? He cheated on a driving test. So for the next 26 years, he had to spend in a California prison at California taxpayers' expense for cheating on a driving test. Well, California amended its 3 strikes law. And so after 11 years, he was released because they redid the petition or whatever, the courts, and they released him under the new California 3 strikes law. Well, ICE got a hold of him. He was deported the very next day. Now, in deporting him the very next day, what happened? His 2 teenage children had no father in this country. Now, I have a heart. And I, who has a heart, say that that was heartless. That the state of California deported this man for cheating on a driver test as his 3rd strike. The 2 strikes before that were done when he was a minor, but they counted against him. And in California, some of these kids who are being given a year and a day type sentence, you know what that extra day is? Well, if that extra day is on there, hey, they can tack on a strike if they're tried as an adult or whatever. So it's basically a hook. And a lot of these kids are taking these deals, even as Simon Liu did, in ignorance of how our criminal justice system works. And when they do all of the things that they were told to do, and then you'll get out, well, would these individuals take these type of deals if they were told, and once you're free, you'll be kicked out of the country? No. So they're hiding some of this stuff, or just not telling these young people that part of the deal. This is not right. And I say California Clemency, as I have designed it, will fix that problem. Now, a lot of people will say, well, what about the victims of these crimes. Because in the situation with Simon Luke, it was a home invasion robbery. And one of the accomplices sexually assaulted a woman. And so Simon Luke had no knowledge of this. But as part of the plea bargain and his naivety, he said, well, okay, I'll take it. He couldn't fight it. He had no money. And so he took the deal, not realizing what was going to happen to him. And though he was released from prison early due to good behavior, why would you be released from prison, good behavior, and knowing that you are going to be deported? No, something's screwy there. And so what I'm saying here is this young man and thousands of others are caught up in a bait and switch sentencing scam. And they deserve another chance. We ask them to do an awful lot while they're locked up. And then we're going to throw them out of the country once they're finished. Think of it this way. You know how we've had all these fires, and some of these prisoners are fighting some of these fires. Well, some situations where these prisoners were caught up, they too, if their situation was like Simon Luke's, could be deported upon their release. Now, Simon Luke didn't sexually assault anyone. He just took that as part of the deal. And there's an awful lot of people who are in similar situations. And they have behaved themselves miraculously while in prison. And so you're going to fight fires in the state of California, as bad as they are. When you get released, ICE is coming after you to deport you. You did your time. You did the state a favor. And then when you're released, they're going to kick you out of the country. Give me a break. This not. Come on, people. We are better than this. And I, in the next year, am going to do all I can to promote a new clemency process. Now, I don't think that it will be part of legislation with the California legislature. I believe that it'll have to be a constitutional amendment where the voters decide on whether this will fly. Now, call me crazy, but it may take $10 million to make this law in the state of California. And I say, I'm up for the challenge. I honestly believe that God put me on this earth for prison reform. And I came up with the idea while watching the well-respected news magazine 60 Minutes. And I'm going to do my best, as long as I'm on this earth, not guaranteeing that I'll live throughout the next year. I'm going to do my part. And I hope that you do your part. Contact me. My email is there. and let's do this together. Until next time.